Picture this. The year is 2016, and the United States is in the throes of a contentious presidential election. The candidate, business tycoon Donald Trump. Now, this wasn't your typical election cycle. The world watched in disbelief as a man best known for his real estate empire and reality TV shows defied the norms of political candidacy. Trump's campaign was as unconventional as the man himself. He was an outsider, a maverick who scoffed at political correctness and traditional campaign decorum. He spoke in a language that was raw, unfiltered, and to many, refreshingly candid. As election night approached, so did the murmurs of uncertainty. Pundits, pollsters, and political elites alike painted a picture of inevitable defeat for Trump. The data suggested a comfortable victory for his opponent, Hillary Clinton. The stage was set for what was supposed to be a predictable end to an unpredictable election. But then something unexpected happened. As the results started trickling in, state by state, the electoral map began to shift. The blue wall of the Democrats started to crumble, and the red tide of Trump's support started to rise. The murmurs of uncertainty turned into gasps of disbelief. The political world was left in shock, and the global audience was left in awe. Against all predictions, against all historical precedents, Donald Trump had won. It was a victory that shook the foundations of American politics. It was a victory that sent shockwaves around the world. It was a victory that echoed the sentiments of a forgotten America, an America that felt left behind by the political elites, an America that yearned for change, no matter how unconventional. The reactions were immediate and intense. Supporters celebrated in jubilation, while detractors expressed fear and uncertainty about what lay ahead. But regardless of the reactions, one thing was clear: a new era in American politics had begun. And so, against all odds, Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. The early days of Trump's presidency were anything but ordinary, setting the tone for the 4 years to follow. One of the first orders of business for Trump was issuing an executive order that restricted travel from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, a move that sparked widespread protests and legal challenges. It was a bold and controversial start, signaling a presidency that would not shy away from making tough decisions, regardless of the pushback. Then came the attempts to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. The Republican-led Congress struggled to find a consensus on an alternative healthcare plan, which resulted in a drawn-out battle that showcased the complexities of healthcare reform. Trump's first address to Congress was another significant event in the early days of his presidency. In a speech that lasted over an hour, Trump outlined his vision for America's future, touching on issues ranging from immigration to job creation. He promised a new chapter of American greatness, an idea that would become a recurring theme throughout his presidency. However, these weren't the only happenings that marked the beginning of Trump's tenure. His frequent use of social media, particularly Twitter, to communicate directly with the public and to criticize his opponents was another notable aspect of his presidency. This unconventional approach was a departure from previous presidents and became a defining characteristic of his time in office. The early days of Trump's presidency were a whirlwind of activity, punctuated by moments of controversy, division, and unpredictability. Yet, They were also marked by a sense of determination and a desire to shake up the status quo. Trump was not a traditional president, and his early days in office made it clear that his presidency would be anything but traditional. These initial actions marked the beginning of a presidency that would continue to break norms and challenge expectations. No presidency is without controversy, but Trump's was particularly fraught with scandal. Let's delve into the major controversies and scandals that marked Trump's presidency. We'll start with the Russia investigation. In 2017, a special counsel was appointed to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 election and potential collusion with the Trump campaign. The investigation, led by Robert Mueller, lasted for nearly 2 years, and while it did not conclusively prove collusion, it did result in multiple indictments and convictions of Trump associates. Next, we have the impeachment proceedings. Trump was impeached not once, but twice by the House of Representatives. The first impeachment, in 2019, was related to allegations that Trump had solicited Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, his political rival. The second impeachment, in early 2021, was prompted by the storming of the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters. In both cases, the Senate did not convict Trump, allowing him to finish his term. Then there's his response to the Charlottesville protests. In 2017, a white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, resulted in violent clashes and the death of a counter-protester. Trump's response, in which he said there were very fine people on both sides, drew widespread criticism for failing to unequivocally condemn white supremacy. Let's not forget the numerous other controversies that characterized Trump's time in office: the travel ban targeting predominantly Muslim countries, the family separation policy at the border, the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, and many more. Each of these events sparked heated debates, legal battles, and widespread protests. These controversies marked a presidency under constant scrutiny, with each new event adding another layer to the unfolding story. The impact of these controversies on Trump's legacy is still being debated and will likely continue to be a topic of discussion for years to come. While controversy often dominated headlines, Trump's presidency also saw substantial policy changes and achievements. One of the major shifts was the tax reform. In 2017, Trump signed into law the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This bill drastically lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. It was the most significant change to the tax code in over 30 years. Proponents argued it would stimulate economic growth, while detractors worried about the impact on the national debt. Another defining feature of Trump's presidency was an extensive deregulation policy. His administration aimed to cut red tape and reduce government interference in business. This led to a rollback of numerous regulations across various sectors, from environmental rules to banking guidelines. Supporters hailed these moves as freeing up the economy, while critics expressed concerns about potential risks to public safety and the environment. Trump's influence extended beyond these economic measures. He also had a profound impact on the nation's highest court. Over his term, Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, reshaping the court for generations to come. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett each brought their own conservative perspectives to the bench. This shifted the court's balance, potentially influencing landmark decisions for years, if not decades. On the international front, Trump also had some notable achievements. His administration brokered the Abraham Accords, a peace deal between Israel and several Arab nations. This marked a significant step towards easing tensions in the Middle East. Trump's policy changes and achievements were as divisive as they were transformative. Whether you agreed with his approach or not, they sparked passionate debates about the role of government, the balance of power, and the direction of the country. Regardless of one's political leanings, it's undeniable that Trump's policy changes have left a lasting impact on the country. As the final year of Trump's presidency approached, the world was hit with an unprecedented challenge, the COVID-19 pandemic. This unforeseen health crisis drastically shifted the focus of Trump's presidency. The virus, which originated from Wuhan, China, rapidly spread across the globe, bringing nations to their knees as they scrambled to respond. The United States, under Trump's leadership, was no exception. The Trump administration's response to the pandemic was met with a mix of praise and criticism. On one hand, Trump was commended for implementing travel restrictions early on, a move that some argue bought the country valuable time. On the other hand, critics pointed to a lack of clear communication and inconsistencies in messaging as major shortcomings. As the virus spread, the administration faced scrutiny for the nation's testing capabilities and the availability of personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. In April, Trump announced Operation Warp Speed, an initiative aiming to develop and distribute a COVID-19 vaccine within the year. Despite initial skepticism, this goal was achieved by the end of 2020, marking a significant victory in the fight against the virus. Yet, the pandemic's impact extended beyond public health. The US economy, which had been a strong point of Trump's presidency, took a significant hit. Unemployment rates soared as businesses shut down, and the stock market experienced severe volatility. The administration responded with the CARES Act, a $2 trillion stimulus package aimed at providing financial relief to individuals and businesses. Amidst this tumultuous backdrop, the 2020 election loomed. The pandemic added another layer of complexity to an already contentious race. Traditional campaign rallies were replaced by virtual events, and mail-in voting became a hotly debated topic. Despite these challenges, the election saw record-breaking voter turnout. The election results, however, were not in Trump's favor. After a closely contested race, the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, was declared the winner. Trump and his team launched numerous legal challenges alleging widespread voter fraud. These claims, however, were largely dismissed by the courts due to lack of substantial evidence. The final year of Trump's presidency was indeed a year like no other. The COVID-19 pandemic not only tested his leadership, but also dramatically reshaped the political landscape. The virus dictated policy priorities, impacted the economy, and influenced the course of the 2020 election. This final year, marked by a global pandemic and a contentious election, brought an end to one of the most unconventional presidencies in American history. As the dust settles on the Trump era, the question remains, what is the legacy of his presidency? Donald Trump's tenure in the Oval Office was anything but ordinary. His unconventional approach to politics marked a shift from traditional norms, reshaping the landscape of American politics, from his prolific use of social media to communicate with the public to his open disdain for the press. Trump's presidency was a departure from the usual playbook. This maverick approach has left an indelible mark, challenging the future leaders to either return to established norms or continue the path of unorthodoxy. On the policy front, Trump's presidency saw significant changes. His tax cuts and Jobs Act, for example, resulted in a substantial overhaul of the American tax system, the effects of which are yet to be fully understood. His aggressive stance on immigration, symbolized by the infamous wall, has left a lasting impact on how America views and handles immigration. Yet perhaps the most significant aspect of Trump's legacy lies in the deep political divide that marked his presidency. His polarizing rhetoric often served to inflame rather than bridge this divide, leading to a heightened sense of partisanship in the country. This divide is not one that will easily be mended, and its effects could resonate for years, if not decades, to come. However, it's important to remember that the legacy of a presidency is not set in stone. It evolves as the policies put in place are tested over time, as the next leaders respond to it, and as the nation reflects on its history. Trump's presidency was a time of change, of disruption, and of intense debate. It has left a mark on the nation that will take time to fully comprehend. It's a legacy that has sparked intense feelings of support, of opposition, of uncertainty. While the final chapter has yet to be written, the legacy of Donald Trump's presidency will undoubtedly continue to shape the United States for years to come. From an unexpected victory to a tumultuous end, Donald Trump's presidency was a roller coaster ride of highs, lows, controversy, and change. A business tycoon turned political leader, Trump's journey to the White House began with a surprising win in the 2016 election, taking the world by surprise. His early days in office, characterized by a whirlwind of executive orders and policy changes, set the tone for his presidency. From immigration to environmental regulations, from tax reforms to healthcare, Trump's administration reshaped the American political landscape in ways that will reverberate for decades to come. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Controversies and scandals were frequent companions of the Trump era. Allegations of collusion with foreign powers, impeachment inquiries, and a constant media storm were just some of the challenges that marked his tenure. Yet, despite these obstacles, Trump managed to push through a number of significant policy changes. The final year of Trump's presidency was as eventful and tumultuous as the preceding ones. With a global pandemic, social unrest, and a contentious election, the stage was set for a dramatic climax to his time in office. The legacy of Trump's presidency is complex and multifaceted. His supporters praise his economic policies and his unorthodox approach to politics, while his critics point to his divisive rhetoric and controversial decisions. Regardless of one's political leanings, it's undeniable that Trump left an indelible mark on the United States and the world. In the end, Trump's presidency was a period of intense change, controversy, and unpredictability. It was a time of deep divisions and passionate debates, but also a time of resilience and adaptation. Whether loved or loathed, one thing is certain: Donald Trump's presidency will remain a significant chapter in American history.